To another edition of our Thursday night's class, Erev Yom Tov. For those who are able to make it out, Ashrechem u'matov chelkechem. What can be a better way to get ready for Shavuot by learning Torah? Somebody asked me a couple years ago that they had a medical condition, that as a result of the medical condition, lo aleinu v'lo alechem, we should never know, they were constantly gaining weight and they couldn't lose weight, and it didn't come from excessive overeating at all. So there are certain people who have such medical conditions, and it affects the health in a lot of ways. So it was 2 days, it was like 2 or 3 days before Shavuot, and they called and they said, "Do I have a solution?" So I said, "I'm not a doctor and I'm not God, so you got the wrong address. What do you want from me?" "No, they want a sgula." I said, "A sgula for weight loss? That I didn't hear yet. Today we have sgulot for everything, but a sgula for weight loss, that's already." So then, if it was a problem of overeating, so I would say don't eat, but for you that's not the case. So then something came to me. Listen to this. I once went into Maran Rav Yaakov Yagen. This is not only for weight loss, it's a good eitzah you should take with you for the whole Shavuot. And I mentioned to him that my brother, Zecher Tzedek Livracha, wasn't doing so well. And I said, "Rebbe, we tried all different things medically. I think we maximized our ishtadlut already. We want to be sure that we maximized our efforts spiritually as well. Is there anything that you want to advise us to do spiritually?" And Maran Rav Yaakov Yagen asked me, "Is he capable of going to synagogue still?" I said, "Not really, but maybe sometimes if he has a good day, if we take him in a wheelchair, and that could be." So he said, now Shavuot is coming up. I go to Israel every year like Boma, so it was like Boma time. He said, take him to synagogue Shavuot, the first morning, and even if he can't go for the whole prayer, take him for Kriyat Torah. And you should have good news. So most people would say, okay, some mystical thing, and they'd walk out. I'm not like that. I got to understand everything. That's why I don't buy into the 40 stories, because I don't understand them. So I turned to Rav Yaakov and I said, Torah, even in Modani Tzarich, what's this? I said, if anything, I have other times that are more important to go to shul. So he said, no, it's very simple. He said, Chazal teach us that by Matan Torah, hitrapu kol hacholaim. All the sicknesses that were in Am Yisrael got better. Hashem healed everybody. And in the Sefer Kuzari it's brought down, Rabbi Yehuda Levi brings down the Sefer Kuzari, and the Maharal elaborates on this Kuzari a lot, that every holiday, the same Shefa that came from Shamayim originally on the holiday when it happened, comes back to the world again during that time. He says, when did the healing of Am Yisrael happen? By the giving of the Torah. He says, what's the giving of the Torah by us today? When we read Aseret HaDibrot in the synagogue on Shavuot. And therefore, when somebody goes to the synagogue on Shavuot and he hears Aseret HaDibrot, it has the ability to heal him physically from all those things. And if you want to know Sof Maaseh, we took him that year to shul, and he was already diagnosed with 0 time to live. He was living on borrowed time, and Hashem extended his life by 2 years and 2 months after that he lived afterwards. And we saw clearly how the Eitzah of a tzaddik is a good thing. So even though in general I don't have an agenda to push going to shul, especially not for women, but when it comes to Shavuot in the morning, to hear Aseret HaDibrot in shul, I'll give you a good tip. You got a gift, a cheesecake. That was my cheesecake. So I told this woman that maybe you should go to shul, hear Aseret HaDibrot Shavuot morning. I said, based on what Rav Yaakov once told me, he's saying it's coming for a medical reason. Itrapu kol hacholaim. I never got a call back, so I don't know if it means it worked or it didn't work or it's just not appropriate to call back, but one way or the other. But this is a good eitzah. This is something good. It means in the Koach HaTorah, it has the power to heal all sickness. We spoke about it a lot in the past bunch of weeks. So tonight I want to take another approach. But what's a class without starting off with a story? So there was 2 Jewish guys. This really should have been said last week because it's more to do with a pasuk in last week's parasha. But so what? There were 2 guys that were walking to shul one morning, and it was raining. Right, we went through that this week, but it wasn't like today, tar and sidewalks and that. It was raining. It was muddy. And they were getting dirty. So one guy turned to the other guy, two friends, and he told them, listen, if we both continue walking, by the time we get to shul, we'll both be filthy. I have an eitzah. One of us should pick the other one up on his shoulders, and at least only one gets dirty that way. Why do we need two people to get dirty? So he said it's a brilliant idea, but who's going to pick who up? How do we decide that? Based on what? Who gets the right? So he said he has a pasuk in Tehillim that gives the answer to that. He said what? He said, my name is Shalom, your name is Israel, and the pasuk says in Perek Kuf Chafei in Tehillim, Shalom al Yisrael. Shalom goes on Israel. His friend heard. He was quiet. He had nothing to say. He's right. So he went and he picked him up on his shoulders and he walked to shul. They were a few seconds away from the shul, and there was a big mud pile, a big mess right near the building. And suddenly he takes his friend from on top of him and he throws him on the ground, but he makes sure not only his feet get muddy like him, that he was in mud from side. He said, what'd you do? I thought we were here to help each other. He said, you're 100% right. But now that I came to shul, I just realized that there's another pasuk. This pasuk was written in the Chamisha Chumshei Torah already. V'natati shalom ba'aretz. I should put shalom on the ground. Therefore, that's where you ended up. Fine. In a week like this week, this is a little bit of an appropriate thing. Yeah, Kosh Baruch Hu made big nisim for Am Yisrael this week. Big nisim. We have to be very thankful to Hashem. And I don't mean the symbolic thing of moving the embassy. Only Hashem knows if that's good or bad. It's nice to see that finally there's a president that sticks to his word. That part of it was nice. But beyond that, we don't know Dakei Hashem. I'm talking about the security situation in Israel. It wasn't pleasant at all, to put it mildly. And there was big nisim, nes after nes this week. And the biggest nace of it all was even the United Nations had to concede to the miracle. They called an emergency meeting to say why the Israelis killed 60 people and wounded who knows how many. About Syria, they don't call emergency meetings when there's 40 times that killed every day. But about Israel, it's also a nace. Why does Hashem allow that to happen when Hashem doesn't care about the respect to the Jews? It's to show the world in their face their own hypocrisy and their own lie, and the miracle that happened. If not for this scene, most of the world would have not known anything happened in Israel. And now the whole world knows that 400,000 people came to the fence of Israel. They wanted to break the border, and they didn't succeed. It's a miracle. Hashem made a nace. Now, of course, we don't celebrate death of people even when they're terrorists, because Maaseh Yadai Tovim Bayam V'anam Sharim Shira, we learned that from Mitzrayim, fine. But it was a very sensitive week in Israel. And then today, a friend of mine who's in the system told me an amazing thing. This is... They caught a guy in the Mamila Mall, randomly walking, who something rubbed a soldier that was there the wrong way and decided to stop him. And turns out that this dude was a terrorist, and he had on him all different exciting things, or not so exciting things. And he was on his way to the Kotel to make a terrorist attack by the Kotel. That's what he said when they later on interrogated him. And Kosh Baruch Hu put exactly, I don't know if you ever in Mamila Mall, soldiers don't stand there normally. Exactly then, a soldier walked by, saw a guy, didn't look right, stopped him, called for backup, and there's hundreds of stories like this every month. It's a shame that the Shabbat can't let this all out and let us know what goes on, but the amount that's going on. I have an uncle who's been in the military for over 56 years now, and he tells me on a slow month, they have 300 attempts for suicide attacks that they stop. He says that's a slow month. So now you understand the pasuk. Pasuk says an interesting thing. It's a crazy number, no? He says that's a slow month. There's a guy who's doing this for 56 years. Now we'll understand the pasuk. The pasuk says when Mashiach comes, who's going to be the first to praise God? Believe it or not the Jews. Hallelujah Hashem kol goyim. It's talking about Yemot HaMashiach. The goyim are going to praise Hashem. And what are they going to praise Hashem? Not the Mashiach came. For them, it's a bad thing. Ki gavar aleinu chazdo. That Hashem had chesed on the Jews. Why would the goyim praise God that He had mercy on the Jews? If anything, that wasn't what they wanted all along. This is brought down to the Mefarshim. They asked this question. So there's an unbelievable answer. The Biskirov said over this answer, and I found it also before him. But the Brisker Rov said, it's very simple. He gave a parable. He said if somebody got sick with something, but he didn't know, he didn't feel any symptoms. And then at one point, for a different reason, he went to the hospital, and they found what he's sick with. So on one hand, it's very bad news. On the other hand, it's good news, because if they would have not found it, it could have killed him at the end. There's a very famous story with Rav Yaakov Yagen, or Shiva of Lakewood, that one day, I think it was in February, I'm talking about many years ago, he was walking out of the yeshiva, and after saying a shiur klali, the general assembly class for the place, and he slipped on the front steps, and he broke his knee, and he needed emergency surgery. And then it wasn't like today; these surgeries were very complicated back then. The recovery was very complicated. And in the yeshiva, there was a lot of talk. What is this? The yeshiva got injured. How could it be? And what was the biggest talk that nobody wanted to say in words, but everybody was thinking, where's God? He was just walking out of saying a shiur. They got an answer a few hours later. They put him on an operating table to fix his knee that got injured when he fell. And they found a tumor inside his knee. And if they would have not operated, they would have never found it, and that would have killed him. And he had a prolonged life as a result of saving his life. So exactly when it looked like it was a problem, that was the Yeshua, that was Hashem's ways of saving him. That wasn't the problem. And that's why it happened dafka after the shiur Torah. Because the Torah was agune umatzle, not only from the chet, from a sin, it was agune umatzle kipshuto, it saved his actual life. With this way of thinking, the Brisker Rov says a very simple thing. He said, the Goyim plot on us hundreds of plans a day to kill us. But they don't succeed. I don't know if any of you guys saw the video that was, I don't even want to say this Rasha's name in a shul, of a guy who's running in the Republican Party in California, spitting on an Israeli flag, but he didn't have an agenda with Zionists. This is the first time, he crossed the line already. He had an agenda with Jews. He sounded worse than Hitler sounded before World War II in things that he said. And this is a guy who's running for public office in the name of freedom of speech. Yeah, that's my beliefs. Shugana thing. What does that mean? That even in America, there's a lot of crazy people that don't love us exactly, to put it mildly. And Baruch Hashem, the Jewish communities are flourishing. We're growing and growing every day, everywhere, taking over cities and towns, and hey, Queens, and just look at what's going on. Sooner or later, they're going to have some sort of borders around Queens, and you're going to have to either show a Chinese citizenship or Bukharian citizenship to live here. That's the way it's going to work. It's just a matter of time, right? One city after the next. And I know in Lakewood, a few years ago, when the community got so big they couldn't live in Lakewood anymore. So they started moving out to Jackson, to Toms River, and whatever. And the Goyim weren't so fond of this idea. So they took all different moves in order to cause the Jews a lot of headaches. So there was a while that they wanted to go to the Supreme Court, and to here, and to there, to file all different discrimination and racial things. Till one day, one Hasidic Rebbe said a smart thing to his Hasidim. He said, instead of wasting millions of dollars on all these legal fights and getting nowhere, he said, just tell your kids and your grandchildren to move to the neighborhood. And you'll have the majority, and you'll take over the townships one after another. And 5 years later, that's exactly what's going on. So we have a certain amount of koach in America, and we feel very comfortable as a result. We have a block vote, we have AIPAC, we have this, we have that, you know, we feel very, very, very comfortable. But we have no idea that there's so many others that don't exactly like us, to put it mildly. Hashem makes nes after nes every single day that they don't succeed to harm us. Literally miracle after miracle that they don't succeed to harm us. But in Europe, Kal V'chomer goes on, it's unbelievable. Comes to Brisker Rov and says, when Mashiach comes, the Jews are going to be very happy. But their happiness is going to be that Mashiach came. The Goyim are going to tell the Jews, you don't even know what you have to be happy for. Because 300 terrorist attacks a month we planned to do on Israel and we didn't succeed. Thousands of terrorist attacks around the world we planned on doing on Jews and we didn't succeed. Hallelujah, Hashem, Kol Goyim, we could praise God better than you. Because we know what could have happened to you that didn't happen to you during the entire exile. Ki gaval aleinu chazdo, because of the chesed Hashem did to us, that He prevented their troubles that they wanted to cause us. They're the ones who have to let us know what they wanted to cause us in order for us to know to appreciate it. And definitely, it's a big chesed Hashem, everything that happened with all the chaos and everything in Israel, it's a very big chesed Hashem. that things went by peacefully. You got to say. When I'm purposely saying this, I don't talk politics. That's not my thing. To me, it's more emunah. And when you osim lo nes umodeh alav, osim lo nes acher tachtav, Chazal say. If you have a miracle and you're grateful for it, and you say thank you for it, then Hashem makes you another miracle. So this week we had days that were very critical, whether it was the day that they moved the embassy or Yom HaNakba or whatever. And Hashem helped that it went by. So now we have the next day, and that's a couple hours away, and Hashem should help that it should go by peacefully. It's the first Friday of the Ramadan. And Yamach Shemam, these terrorists, they have all different ugly plans every year on that Friday. It's like their mitzvah. That's what we spoke about last week. I don't know if you realized how strong what we spoke about last week was with Rav Shach. That we're on the side of the nirtzachim and not the rotzchim. But that's their mitzvah. What's their religion? Now we're going to go to cause trouble to Jews. Hashem should help. You should watch over the soldiers. I have a lot of friends that are there. And even if they're not my friends, all Jews are my friends. But I'm just saying, I know a lot of people that are stationed in Jerusalem today. And none of them's mothers are sleeping right now, that I promise you. Hashem should help. It should go by peacefully. And we say thank you for the miracles that we had the whole week. So like this, we'll have more. And another Friday will go by peacefully. And they'll plan and try. And Hashem laughs in their face. When did we see an example that was so clear to Klal Yisrael? A lot of you are too young to know that this existed because you weren't born yet. But at the end of the 90s, there was, it was actually, no, the beginning of the 90s, before mid-90s, there was one Sukkot that they were doing Birkat Kohanim Barakotel. And these Arabs, Yimach Shemam Hashem Zichram, for weeks and months before, were planning this. It's crazy. Hashem blinded the whole military. Nobody saw this. They were behind the wall of the Kotel. They have control over there, the Waqf, the Jordanians. And they were storing rocks. What was the plan? Today it's much more the number. But back then there was about 30,000 people who used to go to the Kotel for Birkat Kohanim, second day Chol HaMoed in Israel. And they said, we don't need guns, we don't need war, we don't need ammunition, we don't need nothing. We'll just have our kids come up here, take rocks, throw them over the wall, and it'll be mass death. It'll be mass death for two reasons. Number one, the actual stones hitting people. But number two, people are going to try and escape. What happens when 30,000 people are contained into a little tiny area and they all try to escape at once? Just from trampling each other, they trample each other to death. Hashem Yirachem. And what happened at the end? There was only one person, not died, who had an injury, which the total injury concluded 5 stitches. And when you see this video feed on this, I think you can find it on YouTube also. You see this, they didn't throw pebbles, cinder blocks, stones, big, raining, like raining stones. Nothing. What did they get wrong? They got wrong one detail. At 4 minutes before they did what they did, about 3,000 Kohanim stood by the wall and turned around and told Am Yisrael, Yivarecha Hashem, Hashem will bless you. But then they said one more word, V'yishmerecha, and He will protect you. And Hashem said, yes. And on that we say, Umalach ra al korcho ya'aneh amen. And the bad angel, against his will, should be forced to always say yes. V'yishmerecha, that Hashem will always protect Klal Yisrael. So we hope that the same way we see Nisim Gdolim every day, Ken Yiten v'Chen Yosif ad bi'ad goel, we shall always see Nisim in Am Yisrael b'ezrat Hashem. And now we're going to make our own little nes for Shavuot, which come out better people. That's the biggest nes that exists. There's a Gemara that we spoke about many times. Each time we say a different pshat. This year we're going to try and do the same thing. And this Gemara is in Masechet Psachim, Daf Samachet Amud Bet. It's easy to remember. Psachim Sach. Sach means to talk. When you want to talk, you got to talk about Divrei Torah, right? The Gemara says, "V'dibalta bam." We learn out from in Krishma. We say you should speak about it. What's it? So the Gemara learns out, "V'lo b'dvarim acherim." Don't talk anything besides the Divrei Torah. Like in other words, Divrei Batala. Fine. So the Gemara says, the Gemara has a discussion, I'm going to say it a little bit short because of time restraints, of what's the obligation of a person when it comes to keeping holidays. Does he do it for the sake of himself, or does he do it for the sake of God? What does that mean? Of course you do it for the sake of God, it's a holiday. But do you spend the whole holiday in synagogue, praying and studying, or do you celebrate? Or do you blend them? So we got 3 options. So the Gemara has machloket. What's machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua? Rabbi Eliezer says that it's either Kulo Lachem or Kulo Hashem. In other words, focus on the spiritual element. The holiday was made for spiritual reasons. Go to shul, learn, daven, do what you got to do. The Gemara says, Rabbi Yeshua argues. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, Chelkeyu, you have to split it. Chetziel Hashem and Chetziel Lachem. Half is for Hashem and half is for you. The Rambam, by the way, in Ilchot Yom Tov, I think it's probably you take it Halacha Yutet, maybe, if my memory is right. He elaborates in detail about it. The Rambam writes that you should go to shul and you pray, and it's a long prayer because of the holiday. There's Torah and Hallel, Musaf, this, that. It takes a long time. And then the rabbis doresh. I guess the rabbis then gave longer speeches and whatever. And by the time you're done, it's Chatzi Hayom. It's already Chatzot. So then you go home and you have a Seudah Gdolah, a big feast that starts at noon and ends at night. It's a big meal to have. I wonder how many courses they serve. And that's Chetziel Lachem. And the meal should consist of meat and wine. Fine. According to the majority of the Rishonim, even Bizman Hazeh, there's no Beit HaMikdash, drinking wine on Yom Tov is a mitzvah d'oraita. It goes so far that the poskim bring down that the tefillin of Yom Tov is to drink wine. We don't have tefillin on Yom Tov, so the tefillin of Yom Tov is to drink wine. That's a mitzvah d'oraita. It comes to the mitzvah of Simchat Chag. But the Gemara continues and says an interesting thing. Comes the Gemara and says, the same Rabbi Eliezer that said, that go sit in shul and pray and do holy things on a holiday, comes Rabbi Eliezer and writes, Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Hakol Modim, everybody agrees, Be'atzeret on Shavuot, De'ba'ina nami lachem. And even if all the other holidays, you're supposed to dedicate more to spiritual things, when it comes to Shavuot, everybody agrees you got to spend half the day for physical things. Why? My timer, what's the reason? Yom shenitna bo Torah. It's the day that the Torah was given. Doesn't that sound a little bit the opposite? The day that the Torah was given, if anything, should be the day that all you do is learn. And exactly the day that the Torah was given, Yom shenitna bo Torah, that's the day, Kol Modim, everybody agrees, the Ba'ina Nami Lachem. The one day, everybody agrees. Make sure that there's an element of Lachem over here. I'm skipping a little bit in the Gemara, but then the Gemara says another story also that has to be understood. Rabbi Yosef, B'yom ha'atzeret, on the day of Shavuot, Amar, he said, Avdi li egla tlata, make me a calf. Tlata means third. Rashi writes that the third calf that's born is the one that tastes best. That was the most expensive meat available. Make me the most expensive cut of meat. Amar, he said, Ilav hayoma de kagarim, if not for this day Shavuot, that caused Kama Yosef Ika Beshuka. How many Yosef would there be in the marketplace? What does that mean? So listen to what Rashi writes over here. Ilav hayoma shelamadeti Torah venitromamti. That I studied Torah and the Torah elevated me. Harei anashim arbe bashuk sheshman Yosef. There are plenty of people out there in the marketplace that their name is Yosef. Umay beini leveinam. And what would be the difference between me and them? We'd be the same. And therefore I have a special reason to celebrate today. Shelamadeti Torah venitromamti. That I learned Torah and it elevated me. By the way, I have a diuk in Rashi. As you know, in Rashi there's no extra word. Forget about letter even. Forget about word. Every word is calculated. And you can learn whole worlds from one word in Rashi. If Rashi added a word that seems to be extra, so then you have to understand why. So in this Rashi, I remember as a young child, I once asked my Rebbe that I thought automatically you learn Torah and that Torah makes you a better person. Torah Hashem Tmima, Machkimat Navesh, it's Machkimat Peti. So why did Rashi have to write Shelamadti Torah? I learned Torah venitromamti, and I became elevated. It's automatic. If you learn Torah, you become elevated. So I don't remember honestly what my Rebbe answered me then. Probably wasn't too good. No, I don't mean that. I don't know. I don't remember what it was. It was a lot of years ago. But I'll tell you what I think. That unfortunately, lo aleinu v'lo alechem, and many of us encountered this, whether it was in the school systems or in other situations in life or in the public speaking world. There are those that learned a few words of Torah. They're not much more than a few words, but a few words of Torah they might have read. And they used the Torah in a very terrible, evil way. To tell people they're going to hell, to tell people that they're not worth something, to tell people that they're bad, to scare people. That's not Torah, that's nitromamti. That's Torah al menat lekanter, as Tosfot writes. Torah in order to use it to attack. There are many teachers in the school system that know a little bit Torah, and as a result they're a teacher in Hebrew studies, and they don't like a kid because he rubs in the wrong way, and they don't treat him right. And they destroy the kid's life. Literally destroy the kid's life. And I know countless stories like that. There are many Rashi Yeshivot, and I say it to their faces all the time when I have to deal with them, that because of their egos, their inflated egos, attack boys. Attack boys. The boy doesn't fit the mold exactly. He has a rule that you can't wear yellow socks. And the boy wore colorful socks that day because he has a little personality and not everything has to be depressing to him. And now the Rosh Yeshiva throws him to the street. So one day he's going to be a goy, a heroin addict, and a mechalel Shabbat over a pair of socks. What? That's Shelamati Torah. Does Rosh Yeshiva know Torah? Yeah, he knows Torah. But it's not v'nintromamti. It didn't make him an elevated person. Rabbi Yosef testified about himself that the Torah he learned, v'nitromamti, it elevated me. I became a better person. I didn't utilize it in the wrong way. I didn't utilize God's name, Lotisad Shem Hashem Lashav, in a false way, in a way that can harm others, in a way that's sending the wrong message, that's not sending the message of unity and love. Everything's in the name of the Torah today. They burn Israeli garbage cans all over the streets of Jerusalem in the name of God and in the name of Torah. And all they're doing is stealing from the Israeli government. And the list goes on. That was just a random example that came to mind. Shelamadeti Torah v'nintromamti. A person has to make sure that the Torah he learns actually elevates him and doesn't do vice versa. Also, you see sometimes somebody becomes religious. He was less observant, now he became more observant. He starts learning. And I don't know if you ever realize this, and I don't mean to make fun or to generalize chas shalom. Because these people that give up their life that they were used to for a life of Torah, but they become a little bit extreme. You ever realize that if you walked into shul and somebody yelled at you, nu or shah, the odds are he became religious somewhere between 2 and 3 weeks ago? Ever realize that? I spoke somewhere a few months ago. Less than a month ago, on a Shabbat in Israel. I was somewhere by an event and I spoke. And I said a speech about whatever it was I had to do with the chizuk of Torah, and right after me, a guy got up, he was a genius, happens to be a genius. I spoke to him afterwards, he's a very smart person. And he became religious 2 years ago maybe. And he attacked in such a way, he said, it's atheism, it's this, it's that. No, not all Jews, I said all Jews are the same. Because by a father, all his kids are equal. Not all Jews are the same. Some Jews are worthless, and some Jews are this, and some Jews are that. He went on and on and on and on, like a nut. Sugar nut. I went over to him afterwards. I told him, halavai, you would have never became religious. Because the damage that you're doing, now that you dress black and white, is so great to Hashem, that it would have been better that you should have never became religious. The damage that's being done is so great. Sometimes they tell me about somebody's hell speakers. That's what I call them. The only ones that are going to hell are them, by the way. Look, he made this one religious, he made that one religious. I said, how many people did he turn off along the way? For every one that maybe kept Shabbat for 3 weeks and it didn't even last, 20,000 were turned off from Judaism. So it's like saying a guy is a paramedic and there's no calls that day. So he goes outside, takes an M16, kills 80 people and then saves one. That's what they're all doing. They're murdering people, mass murder, and then ki'ilu, they save one along the way. Yeah, you see, it worked for me, he saved me. No, it didn't work for you. He murdered 100 people. Happened to be that along the way, one guy for 2.5 days, it might have lasted. That's Shlamati Torah without the v'nitromamti. Im kenim advarim, if this is correct. So now, let's learn another Gemara. I'm quoting everything from inside. Anybody who thinks otherwise should show the sources otherwise from Talmud Bavli. There's a Gemara in Masechet Eruvin. If I have to place a wager, I would say everybody in this room knows this Gemara, maybe not word for word by heart, but at least the concept of the Gemara by heart. The Gemara is Masechet Eruvin, Daf Nun Dalid, Amud Aleph, towards the top. And the Gemara over there says like this. Amalei Shmuel Rav Yehuda. Shmuel told Rabbi Yehuda, Shinina. Shinina means not only to learn. Lishanen. Lishanen means to repeat, meaning constantly repeat in your mind. Shinina. It's not just a regular learning. Meaning a learning that has to have a special focus on. What's this learning that has to have a special focus on? Comes the Gemara and says, Chatof ve'echol, chatof ve'ishtei. Grab and eat, grab and drink. The alma da azlina minei, because the world that we're leaving from, kihilula damya, is like a wedding hall. For the boys that were in yeshiva, so I'm sure you remember your mashgiach in yeshiva quoting this Gemara, probably during the month of Elul, and this is the way he explained it to you. One day we're all going to die, nobody knows when he's going to die, you have to make sure you grab Torah mitzvot, because what's going to be afterwards? Yavo yamim she'en li b'hem chefetz, you can't get any Torah mitzvot. You heard that before, everybody? Sure, right? Okay, let me drop you a bomb. You ever heard of a commentary on the Gemara called Rashi? I think so, right? Rashi is the mefaresh ha-Gemara, the one that explains the pshat of the Gemara. Not mystics, not hidden things, not the pshat. Rashi is the mefaresh, the ultimate pshat of the Gemara. Let me read for you word for word from inside. Rashi writes, Chatof ve'echol, im yesh lecha mamon, lehanot atzmecha, if you have money to utilize, to make your life more pleasurable, al tamtin ad machar, don't wait until tomorrow to use it. Shema tamut, because could be by tomorrow you'll be dead and you won't be able to enjoy your money. Veshuv ein lecha hana'ah, and at that point you won't be able to have pleasure. No? What does Rashi say? Let's try that again. Im yesh lecha mamon, if you have money, lehanot atzmecha, to bring pleasure to yourself, al tamtin ad lemachar, don't wait until tomorrow. Shema tamut, because maybe you'll die, v'shuv ein lecha hana'ah, and you won't have pleasure anymore. Isn't that against everything we were always told? That almost sounds like the Goyim talk, eat and drink today, because tomorrow we may die, right? That's the way they say it. I have an acquaintance, a distant acquaintance, but we're in contact. You should never need to know him, but he's a very big liver specialist in Manhattan, in one of the hospitals. A goy, very, very, very intelligent man who helps many a day. And we had a discussion recently about the risks of alcohol use to gauge exactly what is what risk at what level, and it was pertaining to know what criteria shul should have, so what standards shul should have with the amount of alcohol use that they have in them. And he said, at the end of the conversation, he said, listen, this was a very deep, intense conversation with a lot of tough decisions. Let's lighten it up a little bit. I want to tell you about a patient of mine from a couple of days ago. So there's a patient that came into him, and he swears this is an exact story. And the guy had a lot of liver issues. His test came back bad. Everything was not favorable, to put it mildly, to the point that he would probably need a liver transplant. And now the doctor's going to medicate him in the meantime and give him a diet and this and that, do everything he has to do just until they figure out, a liver transplant is not a simple thing. And he says, and I'm speaking to him and speaking to him and speaking to him, and I see he's not even looking at me. So I thought, as a doctor who's compassionate, there still exists such a thing, there are a few far and beyond, that it came to him as such a shock that so I was trying to be more gentle and, give him hope and this and that. And then he said, no, doctor, I'm listening, continue. He says, I rattled off my whole speech of what has to be done and how it has to be done. And of course, one of the things that I mentioned over there on the list was that he has to stop drinking. Alcohol's not good for him at this point, it's dangerous for him, he has to stop drinking. Before he leaves, before he leaves the doctor's office, he turns to the doctor and he says, I need one favor from you. So now the doctor was happy. He said, okay, now he's coming down to reality. He says, what? He said, I know, because we've spoken about it in the past, that you're a scotch drinker. Tell me, what's the best scotch you ever drank in your life? So the doctor tells him, what does that have to do with anything? And he later on told me that he thought, innocently, this guy is he's shrewd in medicine, but not so shrewd in life. He thought that this guy now can't drink anymore, so he wants to bring him a bottle from his big arsenal of bottles. So he tells him a name, whatever he told him. I don't know, the doctor told me the name, honestly I don't remember. And he tells him, why is it so important? He says, listen, doc, I'm practical. The odds of my liver ever getting better and me surviving this, it ain't too good. You spelled it out very clearly. He said, so at least I want to know I died with a good scotch. The head of a guy. At least I want to know I died with a good scotch. Lichora, I'm sorry to say this so bluntly, but it looks like that's what Rashi's writing. So what do you got to do? So many are going to distort the Rashi and try and twist it and take it out of its context. Sorry, I don't accept that way of doing things. It's like you have an agenda and now let's fit things into my agenda. I don't have an agenda, so there's nothing to fit into it. So what's going on over here? So I think the answer is very simple. I think it's so practical for today's world. When somebody doesn't keep Torah mitzvot, today we don't have anybody spiting. Because if somebody does do it to spite, he's not spiting. Lo aleinu, he has mental illnesses, normally it's post-trauma, and as a result, this is his way of expressing it. But there's nobody intelligent enough to be an apikoros today, and there's nobody intelligent enough today to be a mumar le'achis. It doesn't exist. It comes either out of stupidity or pain, and 99.9% of the time it's just pain. Especially in the younger generation, it's so clear. "150 years ago, there was still a little bit of intellect in the world. So then there were people that had battles of faith. They didn't believe in God. Today, if somebody tells you he doesn't believe in God, I'll tell you exactly what they answer. Don't even get into that conversation. Say, I don't believe that you don't believe. That's it. That's where it ends. He doesn't believe, and you don't believe, he doesn't believe. Have a good day. There's nobody smart enough. I don't believe in the Torah. You know the whole Torah side by side by heart in order to say you don't believe in the Torah? You have to know it thoroughly in order. So first go learn the whole Bavli, Yushalmi, Sifra, Sifrim, Mechiltot, Braitot, Midrashim, and so on, otherwise known as thousands of years of learning, and then tell me if you accept it or not. How could you got to be an idiot on the highest level in the world to say that you don't believe in something you don't know. There's no level of stupidity higher than that. So obviously, somebody who talks like that has a mental illness. Fine. So he's an illness. It's not his fault. What do you want from him? Leave him alone. That's why I'm not, I don't know today if the whole Kiruv movement exists anymore. Years ago, there were still people who had intellect and that, so we had to do Kiruv. Today we have to preserve the Olam HaYeshivot because those people are all oinsim. They have no obligation in Shemayim. It's not their fault. They don't know better. They're ill, aleinu. It's 100% not their fault. Could be in Shemayim, they'll be big tzaddikim also, because a lot of them really suffered a lot in this world. So they cleanse themselves too in that process. It's not years ago we used to make big seminars all the time and this. Today I wouldn't spend $5 on a seminar. If we have money for a seminar, let's support Kola guys for a few months. It's 100 times more important. And the Chazon Ish already, Beruach Kodsho, wrote this 75 years ago. Chazon Ish wrote that he wrote it already then. But then he writes, there'll be a day that people will see it clearly. That the influence, the spiritual influence of one yeshiva student who sits and learns Torah, B'Kedusha U'Tahara, has more positive influence spiritually on the entire world than all the speakers and all the Kiruv organizations and everybody all together. And we don't have to make charity events in order to support a Kola guy. It just takes a few $100s a month. So much easier. So much simpler. So much more effective. So much more effective. One guy sitting and learning Torah has more positive influence on the entire world than everybody together. That's the Koach HaTorah. But, Torah v'nitromamti. Now listen to this. I think we could build something nice over here and we take away something great. Last week in the parasha, there was a very famous midrash. The midrash is a little bit different than it says in other places. But there's two, in Bavli it's a little different than this midrash. But we're going to go with what the midrash says. Not that it makes a big difference for what we're trying to say, just for being objective. The midrash says on the pasuk, Im bechukotai telechu. So the midrash writes, the midrash rabbah, Adar dechtiv, that's what it says in the pasuk. David HaMelech said, Chishavti drachai ve'ashiva. Raglai el eidotecha. Amar David HaMelech said, Ribono shel olam, master of the world, V'chol yom vayom hayiti mechashev ve'omer, Every day I used to calculate and say, the makom ploni ulebayit dira ploni ani olech. To this place I'm going, to this house I'm going to these ordeals, whatever they are. What happened at the end? I never went. Why didn't I go? V'haya raglai meviot lebatei knesiyot ulebatei midrashot. And my feet naturally carried me to synagogues and to learning places. To learn. No. What does it mean? What lies in this in this chazal? There's another chazal that says much worse than that, by the way. That every day he was going to go to theaters and to circuses and whatever. And Veraglai used to bring him to the Beis Medrash. What's David HaMelech trying to teach us over here? What does it mean? What's it bringing? You have to understand this. So, this is not Pshat, obviously. We have to differentiate between Pshat and other things. This is more Remez / Chassidut, maybe. That there is it's brought down in Sfarim, it's not mine. A nice way to see this. There was a great rabbi, he wrote a sefer called the Tal Chaim. His name was Reb Chaim Friedlander, Zecher Tzadik Livachas Ch'to Yagen Aleinu. He was a Hasidic rabbi. Tal Chaim V'Abracha. It's written on the whole Shas. It's a Hasidic rabbi, he wrote not Chassidut, he wrote Sfarim on the Shas. He was a genius, he was a crazy genius. And he was also the Av Bedin, the chief posek of a town called Liska. Fine. So he was a very big rabbi. He had a huge following. He was a matmid gadol and a gaon atzum, a great, great man, and calibers it's hard to understand. And he had a custom, by the way, that was interesting, that he used to wear talit and tefillin the entire day. That means he was able to keep himself focused and clean, both physically and spiritually, during all the day hours. That's an amazing thing on its own. And he once testified on himself that he doesn't remember even sleeping, because he only slept at the point that he collapsed. But be'etzim, he doesn't remember sleeping. It's an amazing thing. And believe it or not, his own Hasidim used to say that their Rebbe, in Hebrew, to see understand it better, if you know Hebrew, is a batlan. What does that mean? He was so connected to learning, so he was oblivious to the world. He didn't know the minimum of anything that exists in the world. Believe it or not, today we have somebody alive like that. Maran Rav Chaim Kanievsky Shlit. He literally doesn't know anything in the world. And I can witness that on different subjects that I spoke to him, that he's so detached from what's going on. It's an unbelievable thing. It's an unbelievable thing. Once an air conditioning guy in Bnei Brak told of a story that was very cute. Chaim for many years didn't have air conditioning in his house because the stipple didn't have. But then as he aged and it's not so healthy in the Bnei Brak heat not to have air conditioning, he agreed finally that they should put in air conditioning. By the way, afterwards he said if he would have realized how much better he'll be able to learn with it, he would have told them already years ago to put it in. He just didn't know, so he didn't. Fine. Now air conditioners are nice, but the more things you have, the more problems you have. So sometimes they go bad. So one day it wasn't working. So the grandchildren right away called this guy, from guy in the neighborhood, to come fix the air conditioner. So the guy walks into Reb Chaim's house. I'm sure he was pretty excited. Gets private access. And Reb Chaim was in the middle of learning, but the unit is inside the same room that he learns. And he doesn't have central, it's a unit. He felt bad. So he apologized, and he told him in Hebrew, Slicha kvod harav, I'm sorry, Rabbi. I tzarich livdok ta lachatz b'mazgan. I have to check the pressure. Meaning he wanted to see if there's enough freon in there. And Reb Chaim picked up his head from the Gemara, and he told him, thank you for coming. And with a smile on his face, he says, I never knew that an air conditioner also has blood pressure. Lachatz dam. His association with the word lachatz was once in a while he had issues, medical issues. He went to the hospital, they took his blood pressure. That's all he knew. Beyond that, he didn't understand any further than that. No, so they used to call him a batlin. So Chaim was also like one of his L'havdil Mechaim L'chaim. So the Ramot Chalev Winkler, the Av Bezdin, And the Baal of the Sheilot V'Tshuvot, Levushei Mordechai, when he said his hesped on this rabbi, he said that people say that he was a batla. So he says, I want to ask you a simple question. Somebody who knows Shas and Poskim, is it possible to call him a batlan? He says, and us that we don't know Shas and Poskim, but we know other stupidity instead, we're not the batlanim. He said, more than that. In the Torah, there's everything in the world. So it had to be that he knew all the Chachmot as well. The Gaon of Vilna, for example, knew science and everything. He wrote books on different things. So how could it be that he didn't know? He said because he wanted to be humble, he covered up that he knew anything, so people should call him a batlan. But Be'etzim, that was his hesped on him. But Be'etzim, he was a big genius in all areas. Fine. So anyway, once he was in a situation, he had to marry off a daughter, and he didn't have any money. Now what? So his wife told him that the town that he lived in wasn't a rich town, but he had many Hasidim all over. He said, go to another town. There was other towns that were neighboring. That over there you have a lot of rich Hasidim. Spend the Shabbat there. People will come in, but the Hasidim, it's customary. When you go into the Rebbe, you give him a paper with the names. It's called a kvittel. And under the kvittel, there's a few dollars. He said, everybody's going to come to you. They'll give you a few dollars each. And like this, by the time you come back Saturday night, you'll have what you need. He thought about it. He said, she's right. We have to marry off the daughter. There's no choice. So he went. He went, of course. People were excited that he came. And then a couple hours after he was there, he said, this is a waste of time. I'm going back to my house. Goodbye. And he left. When he left, he came home. So his wife said, wow, so quickly you got what you needed. You didn't even stay for Shabbat. So he told his wife, I don't know. I didn't look. Here, whatever. Gave it to her. Kid said it wasn't a fraction of the amount of money they needed to marry off the daughter. So she was upset. She said, you already went. Obviously, the system's working. So why didn't you just stay until after Shabbat? So he told her it was bothering my learning. And therefore I came home, because at home people don't bother me, it doesn't bother my learning. Bothering my learning. So she said, but what's going to be with our daughter's wedding? So she told him back such a nusach. He told her back such a nusach. He said in Yiddish, I'm going to say a rough translation to the best of my ability. He said, one page of my Gemara to me is worth more than not only all the money in the world, but than being the biggest Rebbe of the world also. Meaning even his influence on others and helping others and all these short and miracles that he made. One page of learning to me is worth more than all that. And that's why you're saying, we need this, we don't need that. Yeah. Doesn't talk to me. I'm out. Here, Nusach of an Adam Gadol. Based on this, he said an unbelievable thing. He said, where does he get it from? He gets it from this Midrash. David HaMelech said, Ribono shel olam b'chol yom v'yom הייתי מחשב ואומר למקום פלוני. He said, what does it mean למקום פלוני? He said, David HaMelech would wake up in the morning, and he was the king, and he was an influential person. And he said, I'm going to go to this town and I'm going to give them chizuk. I'm going to fly here and I'll speak here and I'll give chizuk over there. I'll say a speech here. I'll make people religious here. I'll go do all different things. Shem Shamayim. For the sake of Hashem. Ulebayit dira ploni ani olech. I also have organizations. I have to support them. I'll go to this guy's house. He'll give me a donation. I'll go to that one's house. He'll help me out. I have a daughter to marry off. They'll help me out. But what ended up happening? My connection, my relationship with the Daf Gemara was so strong that all of that looked like nothing in comparison to the ability to actually sit and learn a little bit. Unbelievable thing. Unbelievable thing. Im kenim advarim. So I want to say something very simple. Learning comes with a sacrifice. Chazal say, Torah mateshet kocha shel adam. Somebody learns is weak. There were a few very rare occasions Gedolei Yisrael that was strong, but in general, the vast majority of them were extremely frail and weak. They lived long lives against the nature. Shteiman, I don't know how old he was, 103 or at least, maybe more, 104, and it was a medical mystery. He didn't eat. He fasted most of his life, and even when he ate portions of less than an infant. That's literal, by the way. If you would have seen his breakfast, you would have thought he was eating baby food, because that's what it looked like. And he defied all medical odds. I mean, Hashem protects Gedolei Yisrael as long as Klal Yisrael deserves to have them in the generation. So there were a few that were bigger and stronger and physically. The Vilna Gaon was known to be very strong. But in general, Chazal say, Torah mateshet kochach shel adam. Torah makes a person weak. That's why the whole six-pack gym culture and yeshiva doesn't go hand in hand. It doesn't. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong. There's a mitzvah in Shmatem Odu Nafshotechem. A person who's not in yeshiva should go to the gym and should do it. That's very good. But for yeshiva boy, he's 10 steps ahead of that. He doesn't need that. Torah mateshet kochach shel adam. Because anyway, it's not going to work. Because if you're learning, then it stays at the learning. Where's the flaw? That people naturally are drawn to things that they associate with pleasant situations. People are not naturally drawn to things that they associate with negative things. For example, you should never know. If somebody was driving on some highway and he had a massive accident, he got severely injured, nobody should ever know. And is he going to be excited to drive back on the same road a few weeks later, a few months later, when he comes out of his coma and went through who knows how many surgeries and now is better? No. He might even take detours and avoid that spot. Why? Because there's a certain association of fear and sadness with the location. Meaning we operate on a daily basis, instinctively, without even realizing, based on association of different things. It's very, very interesting, but a lot of the big chefs in the world today, Jewish and non, I don't know much about food or cooking, or I know nothing about cooking and a little bit about food, but I read, I like being a Wikipedia of useless information. So I read a lot of different subjects on life, and I like understanding the psychology behind things. So I was reading recently a very, very lengthy article written by a university that did a lot of years of research on the psychology behind successful chefs. So it turns out that it's not only talent. Yes, of course, they're talented and whatever, but it's not only talent. So what's our second association with food? Presentation. It looks good. That's also important. The Gemara says clearly that your eye, you eat with your eyes. That's why a blind person doesn't really have much pleasure from food. But I don't know if you have experienced this or not, but there's a kosher restaurant in Tel Aviv. I'm not responsible for any achsherim anywhere, so I didn't say kosher as in take it on my back, but it exists. It has a very interesting experience, which might be worth going to experience. I did it. It's a restaurant that's ran by blind people. All the staff are blind. The place is 100% dark in a way that you can't see. And you eat a meal to experience what it would be like to be a blind person. And I want to tell you, it's a very, very intense experience. You suddenly learn to appreciate life when you walk out of there. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing experience. It's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call to be thankful for the smallest things. But, so yeah, we eat with our eyes. There is such a thing. You could have food that tastes very good, but if it looks like one big mush, nobody's interested in it. It's not something... And food is much less good, but if it's presented nice and it looks nice, people tend to go to that direction. But believe it or not, their conclusion was that out of studies and I don't know what, that they interviewed people and that they studied restaurants and Michelin star restaurants and God knows what, they encompassed it all over there. All of that wasn't enough. I said the majority of the success of a restaurant is contingent on an interesting thing. That they're able to make sophisticated modern dishes, but that they don't lose a twist of something that people will associate with their roots, their heritage, or their home. Because when a person looks at a menu, subconsciously without realizing, he's going to automatically end up being drawn to an item that has a component that he associates with from his personal life, that he has a positive memory of. It's an interesting thing. So in the high-end food, and they were showing all these examples of all these high-end restaurants, have 3 Michelin stars. I don't even know if you know this, but in Manhattan we have 5 restaurants, not kosher all, that have Michelin stars. And they were taking their menus and analyzing them. It's a very interesting thing. And their names that you can't even pronounce of the foods all have in them ingredients or whatever it is that a person's instant association is going to be something to do with his grandma's food or some other happy occasion in his life or something that is a feel-good. Because that's the way we operate. We want to have associations with positive things. If that's right, I want to tell you a pshat. It's very easy to understand now. This pshat I had the schus to hear from Maran HaGaon HaTzadik of Michal Yehuda Lefkovich, Zechat Tzadik Levacha, Zchutei Yagen Aleinu. I went into an interesting dilemma. To ask him, where do we draw the line between the tzaddikim that distance themselves from all the materialism in the world, to us that are the ultra-materialistic world? Where's that line? And I'll tell you even more, this might be embarrassing, but who cares? If you learn from it, it's worth it. I'll tell you how I presented the question. I said, Rabbi, I like good things. I like the life of luxury. I like it. I'm not going to lie about it. So, do we say no, and now we're going to go on a starve ourselves from all the things that we like, and because Steinman doesn't do it, many other Gdolei Yisrael didn't do it, or there's a positive element. And that's when he showed me this Rashi. He says, what do you mean? Rashi says to do that. I said, yeah, but this Rashi is not understood. What's Rashi meaning? The Goyim L'Avdil say the same thing, so it can't be. What's Rashi saying? He says, you know what Rashi's saying? He says, if you're happy and you're comfortable, your chance of succeeding to be a happy person in Judaism is much higher. And if you're narrow and you feel pressured and miserable, your chance of being a Yid is much less. He said, so yes, Reb Chaim and this and that, he mentioned the whole list of Gdolei Yisrael then, and most of them are not even alive anymore. They all were able to live b'tzimtzum. He said, but they never felt that they were living simply. They felt that they were living luxuriously. He said, unfortunately, young people, and I'm assuming he meant to say me, but he didn't want to hurt my feelings, don't have that level of pleasure from their learning, and didn't get to that yet. So now what? There should be nothing? No olam hazeh, no olam haba? Then he took it a step further. He says, Yaakov, I want to tell you something. He said, the way a person behaves in his routine is the way he's going to behave towards others and the way he's going to affect the surroundings as well. He said, if a person is not capable of spending money on himself, he won't be capable of giving tzedakah. If a person is not capable of going out and having a good meal, he won't be capable of hosting guests and making them good food. If a person is not capable of buying himself a nice suit, he won't be capable of understanding why Kvod HaTorah dictates that Talmidei Chachamim have to dress well. And he gave me many more examples. I don't remember them all, so I'm only giving you the examples that I remember he gave me. He said, so what's Rashi saying? Because life is short, and everybody wants to be able to one day go up to Hashem and say, I accomplished something in this world. Live life to its fullest constantly. In every area. As long as obviously it doesn't go against halakha. And by that you'll benefit a few things at once. One of the things you'll benefit is that your association with life is going to be a full life. So later on when it comes to giving or to benefiting others or to the way you affect your surroundings, it's going to be a positive effect. It's going to be people that are going to be happy to be around you. You ever paid attention to certain people just by sitting near them you feel better? Just by talking to them for 2 minutes you feel better? And others just the opposite. You could be in the best mood and 3 minutes later you feel so drained. I remember overhearing two people talking. They were talking in front of me. I wasn't listening to their conversation. There was a little dispute between a couple. And at one point the husband got up and told me I'm leaving and I'll be back in 45 minutes. I said, we're in the middle of a conversation over here. What does it mean you're leaving? It doesn't work like that. I said, if you want to leave, both of you leave and have a good life. Do whatever you want. I'm not in the babysitting business. I don't do this for a living. So he tells me, no. I walked in here with a positive attitude and I was in a good mood. Right now I feel like I need to hang myself. He says, I'm going on a ride to Home Depot to buy rope. If by the time I come back I calm down, good. And if not, then our problems are solved. She'll be in Almanah, she'll have my life insurance and everything will be great. Obviously, he just wanted to fuel his fire even worse in that situation. Huh? That's what he told me, word for word. But there is such a musuk, by the way. I'm not saying within marriage. If it's like that within marriage. But in life, there's certain people that when you're around, you feel happier. You feel there's a pleasant feeling to be around them. My Rebbe, Hashem should give him a Shleiman a long life. Just by seeing him, people when they see him, just see him, they just shake his hand, that's it. They don't even say hello to him. All their problems went away. You know how many guys I brought them that had serious issues in life and serious problems in life, and they flew in special from America to Israel just to talk to him, and they came into the room and they were silent, they didn't say a word. And Shlomo's not stupid. He tells him, you flew in from America, it's for something, what do you need? He said, no, Rabbi, everything's fine, Baruch Hashem, just a bracha. Everything's fine. I've been hearing for 6 months from you all your problems, and it was so big that we had no choice but to fly into Israel special to get you a solution. And they walk out of there and they all say the same thing. We just saw his face and his peace and his smile, and everything went away. Life's beautiful. That's a person who can live life. That's when somebody lives life to its fullest. When somebody feels accomplished in every area and things that he does and how he lives and the way he behaves. So then it radiates to others. Comes Rashi and writes, sometimes depriving yourself is going to end up depriving others. And you don't have the right to deprive somebody else. Years ago, I was hosted by a phenomenal couple that are both doctors in Toronto. Phenomenal people. And they hosted me, not only me, my wife was there. We should all go get lessons from them. And Shabbat morning, we were about a meal. And the food was amazing. Everything was great. Accommodations, everything was amazing. At the end of the meal, the wife asks me, "No, were you happy?" I think they were out to please for whatever reason. I said, "Amazing, it couldn't be better." So she said, "I like constructive criticism. Is there anything that was missing?" So the right thing to do, right, is not to answer. But she was an ish emes. I saw that she really wanted to hear. I said, "You really want to know?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, only one thing." I said, "What?" I said, "Coke." There was no Coke on the table. So she gave me a lecture for like 15 minutes how unhealthy it is. And pretty much it's going to kill you, send you to the funeral home, one-day trip. So I told her like this. I said, "I'm not going to argue with you on the sciences. You went to school for it, I didn't. I don't know. You might be right. But I will argue with you on something else. Don't impose your ideals on me. If that's your ideal, so you don't drink Coke. But I'm your guest, and I do want Coke, so bring me Coke." So that's your idea doesn't mean it has to be mine. That's not. So you believe that way. Good. Congratulations. You might even be right. And therefore what? So now you're some guru that's out to save the world? From Coke, out of all things. That's it. But listen to what Anish Shemes says. Not only wasn't she insulted, I was in Toronto 3 weeks later to speak. I went in for a few hours only. I come to the speech, she comes to the speech. At the end of the speech, she hands me a bag. I thought maybe we were there for Shabbos, we forgot something. When I picked the bag up, it was heavy. A 6-pack of Coke. So that's to make up for the Achnas HaZorchim. Tzaddikim, very special people. Very special people. Comes the Gemara and teaches us, it's Yom Shenitna Bo Torah. Shavuot's the day that the Torah is given. A day that the Torah is given, really, it's sit and learn. You know what the problem is, but what if you're not a learned person and your association of learning is such a pain in the neck because I don't understand anything and it's so boring? Come Chazal and say, Hakol modim nu'atzeret ba'ina nami lachem. Everybody agrees that on Shavuot we also need Lachem, because it's a Yom Shenitna Bo Torah. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants the message of the Torah to be that you can have a normal life. There's so many people that the only reason why they don't keep Torah mitzvot is because in their association, because of a false message that they got in the media, they think that if they'll keep Torah mitzvot, so suddenly they have no life. Israelis always express themselves more bluntly, and they say, Akol asur! Everything you're not allowed to do. And that's when I get personal with them. Here, I'm not going to elaborate. I said, well, what do you have that I don't? I actually think it goes the other way. I've been in more countries in the world than you. I've seen more places. I've done more things. Everything, straight across the board. Tell me which pleasure you have in this world that I'm missing. I want to know. I said, and I wake up in the morning and say, at least I have meaning in what I'm doing. And you wake up in the morning and don't have meaning in what you're doing. And Michael Yehuda said one step further. He said, and what's the tachlit of the Torah? What's the ultimate goal over here? That a person should learn b'chol drachecha de'ehu, that in everything he does in his life, not only in the Torah itself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's there. He said, so comes Rashi and says that you should be aware the same way you have to prepare yourself for Olam Haba, Olam Hazeh Domeh Leprozdo. You have to be aware that your preparation for Olam Haba is not only when you go to shul, when you went out for lunch, and you had a good lunch in a restaurant that actually has a normal hechsher. He did a mitzvah. He said Birkat Hamazon, he did a mitzvah. He did this, he did a mitzvah. Each thing's a mitzvah. Every step along the way is another mitzvah. A mitzvah goreret mitzvah. Like this, you build up a thing. And that's hanheyu. It'll bring you a pleasure in this world. And when you have a pleasure in this world, that gives you the reason to want to continue doing the same thing. But if you don't have a pleasure in this world, there's no reason. The difference between our 15, 16, 17-year-old boys today that are in the yeshiva system, that are going to come out, God willing, big Talmidei Chachamim one day, I hope for that for all of them. But the ones that's more probable and the ones that won't are the ones that have Rabbeim that make the learning pleasant for them. And that they love going to school, they want to sit and learn. The ones that don't want to sit and learn. It's very, very clear. It's very, very, very clear. And I end off with one more story. I had the zchut not that many times, so I think only maybe 14 or 16 times in my life to be by Rav Yaakov. Very little. I was like so I was there many, many more times. But one of those times, I took with me a boy. And it wasn't planned. I was on the way to Rav Yaakov, and I needed a ride. I was in Beit Vagan, and I had to get where Rav Yaakov lived, Rehov Chanan. And I asked an acquaintance of mine that lived in Beit Vagan, that had a car, an Israeli guy, could he drive me? Do me a favor, give me a ride, save me 60 shekel for a cab. So he said, I'll gladly give you a ride, where are you going? I told him, Rav Yaakov. He said, I give you a ride, not on a condition. So I thought the condition is he's coming in, I didn't care. So I said, you want to come in? Come in. He says, no, not me, I don't want to come in. So what? He said, I have a son, he's 15, he's going through a hard time a little bit in life. None of us can figure out what. And take him into Rav Yaakov for a bracha. I said, sure. He said, we're going to have to stop on the way to his yeshiva, it's only 5 minutes out of the way. I said, well, stop, bring him, what's the question? We get into his car, we go to the son's yeshiva, we pick up the boy, and together we go to Maran Rav Yaakov. I was blessed that at least the times I went, it wasn't like some people that went and, they watched him walk up the stairs and talk to 80 people at once, and everybody decided that he said that to them. And unfortunately, many false Piskei Halacha came out that way from people that misquoted him on things that he believed exactly the opposite. I actually used to go in. And I went in, and I turned to Rav Yaakov, and I told him, this boy, I don't know him, I know his father very well. And the father said that he's having some hardships. Maybe the Rav should give him a bracha that he should have it easier in life. And Rav Yaakov turns to the boy, and he puts his hands on the boy's hand, and he says, sit down, my son. Setzoch, mein Kind. Sit down, my child. And he was in the middle of learning a Gemara. I think it was Gemara Masechet Makot, maybe Daf Yud Zayin, something like that. And he turns, the Gemara was open like this, like right in front of him. And Rav Yaakov used to hold his hand under the Gemara and lifted a drop, and he let the part of the Gemara go on the table. He turned it like this, so it should be, the boy was sitting on the other side. And he said, let's learn a little bit. And from wherever he was holding, he started learning with him. Now, I don't know if you ever heard recordings, but there are plenty of them, or a few of them. I think there's even one video of Rav Yaakov learning. His voice was phenomenal. He had a voice of an angel, and he was very musical, even though he said he wasn't. But if you hear his learning, and he used to sing the words of the Gemara. It's such a pleasurable experience just to listen to the way he learned. And he sat with this boy, and he learned with him. Now over there, normally you come in 2-3 minutes, 1 minute, whatever, you ask your question, you're out. And over here, Rav Yaakov doesn't let anybody say a word. After about 15 minutes, he told the boy, "No, you understood the Gemara?" Boy nodded his head, he was very shy. Then he asked me what I wanted, I told him what it was, a couple of halacha questions, I need emergency answers for, he answered, and we left. This boy today is married, Baruch Hashem. I didn't have the merit to be by his wedding due to distance, but he's married. He's learning in Kollel. Halavai, one day Hashem should give me the peace of mind and the ability to go back to Kollel and to learn even 60 or 70% of the amount of hours a day he learns. On a slow day, 19 hours. It's on a slow day. He's a wife at Tzadekis, Achel Eshet Rav Akiva of 2018. There's no way to explain this. The guy doesn't know in his own kitchen where's dairy and where's meat. Nothing, no connection to anything in the house, zero whatsoever, nothing. And she's so protective over him, like if anybody tries to disturb him or tell him help your life, this, that. Are you crazy? He's learning, leave him alone, don't. Unreal. And once I couldn't control myself. I said, how does a change like that go? Here his father's saying he's a troubled teen. Today they would already label him youth at risk. And here the guy's on the way to be a Golador. This is, one of the next of Chaim Kanievsky's, there's no doubt about it. Well, you know what he told me? I once asked him straight to his face. He's much younger than me. I said, you were a young teenager. You remember I once took you into Aliyah? You were a big troublemaker back then. I said, how did this happen? Is it real? Is it fake? What is this? And he said, you know what happened? Rabbi Yashiv told me one word at the end of the time that we learned. Hevanta. As a question, did you understand? And he said, in that second, from the beauty and the love of the voice of Rabbi Yashiv and what he gave over to me by learning with me those 15 minutes, I understood everything in life in one shot. I understood that this is what I like most, this is where I want to be, and not that anything else is wrong, just this is more pleasurable to me. I'd rather this over something else. If you're offered 2 plane tickets to go to Israel next week, one in first class, one in economy, I would hope you would pick the first class. He says, this is my first class ticket to life. He says, to the point that I'm scared in Shamayim, this were his words, I won't get rewarded for my learning, because I have so much pleasure that I think I'm getting Gan Eden in this world already. So I showed him that the Iglital writes in the Akdamat Shabbat, is Seifan Shabbat, and the Lametet Malachot, that the Ikal mitzvah of learning is to have enjoy it, is the pleasure that you have from it. I said, you're going to get double Gan Eden, not only. But from this to that, in what? In a Gdol Torah that turned the Gemara to the side, and Zmirot Ayuli Chukecha gave over that message. Comes the Gemara and says, Rabbi Yosef said, it's Ilavahu Yoma Kama Yosef Ika B'Shukah. He wasn't showing off that he's better. He was explaining why he came out one way and the others came out a different way. He said, why am I different than the other Yosefs out there? Because to me, the Torah was a reason to celebrate. Because that was the way it was given over to me, that was the way I accepted it, and that was the way I connected with it. And the others, La'aleinu, didn't connect with it that way. They didn't have a reason to celebrate. So they were B'Shuka on the streets, and I became a Yosef. That's what the Gemara is saying. Because Baruch should help. When we walk into Shavuot, we should walk in with such a big simcha. The Torah should be the ultimate happiness and simcha, and it should be mekuyam with us. Yitrapu kol hacholaim bezrat Hashem. Should have only good news. Amen v'amen.